What's going on, everyone? This is LFC Transfer Room here on Valentine's Day, and as you can see, we are so busy with our partners that we've only been able to get a full stream ahead on Valentine's Day. We are joined today by Paul, Kings, and Menti. Paul, you want to looking chilled, looking relaxed. Are you ready for the stories today? Obviously, it's no game week. It feels a bit weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those days where you want to see football every day, but then you appreciate the time off because we having some injuries. So I'm not complaining. As long as we win another 12:30 kickoff on Saturday, then I will be fine.
And of course, it's the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. Kings, you showed us your wooden spoon from the quiz last week, but at least you got a branded T-shirt on tonight. You know that a bit of a cheer going on. Thankfully, no questions tonight that get you any form of points, just your opinions. So we're waiting now. Premier League back on. Carabao Cup, a bit of news. More slow news stories at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, there is. It always seems really slow when there's no game in midweek because you get used to it, to be honest, especially with the Premier League. And then the Champions League or Europa or whichever competition you're in or League Cup, etc. There always seems to be something going on. And when you get to a week when there's nothing, it's like, oh, I got some free time on my hands. It's a bit different. But yeah, it does seem to slow the stories down as well, apart from obviously what we're going to talk about, what come out today about Trent and other bits and bobs. But it is a bit slow sometimes.
But Menti, you were like, do you know what? Get me in this stream. I've got things that I want to say. Last minute, substituted in. Jen, good evening. How are you, Menti?
I'm good. How are you guys? Excited to be back with the boys on Valentine's.
Well, my missus just brought me a hot chocolate, so I'm pretty much set for the next hour. But we're going to start by talking about the news that got confirmed today, which is Trent is going to miss the Carabao Cup final, and Szoboszlai is going to miss the Carabao Cup final. Now, the way that Liverpool play now, probably these two players are the most instrumental side on that right-hand triangle. Paul, does this mean that Chelsea maybe, with all their injuries coming back and Cuckoo back, maybe Chelsea start to push towards slight favourites for the final? Or do you still think it's Liverpool's to lose?
No, I think we are still a favourite. I would not say overwhelming favourite as we were a couple of weeks ago after Chelsea looks like shite against us and we were rolling with all the guys coming back. But now I would still say we are shading it 60-40 in favor of us. So I think we should still have enough firepower to take care of Chelsea. It won't be easy because they will be motivated because this is the only thing that they have playing for this year. They're a mid-table team with a chance for a trophy. So, they can hurt us. And if we're not careful, we can lose. But at the moment, I still think we are just shading it as to being favourites.
Jane saying we've got Bradley, Endo, and Mo. You start to think about that right-hand side, and we'll have a bit of a chat about what we would do. People are saying Bradley really quickly, but, there's Joe Gomez as well, isn't the Kings? He can play that inverted role, and now Robertson's back to play the more direct role that, maybe he starts to lean towards Joe Gomez. It's just Bradley's on the crest of a wave at the moment. But which is the bigger loss for you, Trent or Szoboszlai for this final in terms of how we're going to approach it?
Going by what I've seen of Bradley, actually, I'm not going to say he's anywhere near the finished article, but he has been actually on fire, to be fair. And I know we're going to get on to talking a little bit more about him a bit later. But so he seems very assured of himself. So I suppose really the biggest loss is going to be in midfield with Szoboszlai. It is disappointing. He comes back and then he's back off injured so quick. I didn't realise he'd been ruled out for the cup final as well as Trent. So it's a big disappointment. We do have Endo back, like Jenna said. And with Bradley, I think I'd pick him over Gomez, actually. I've got nothing against Joe Gomez at all, but when Bradley has played, he's been sensational, to be fair to him. A young lad, full of confidence. And I know, unfortunately, in the last week to 10 days, he's had a bereavement, and it's very sad. But he's obviously come back into the fold now and looking to kick on again. And I genuinely feel that I don't even think he'd be overawed in the cup final. He's played in the Premier League now and got a taste of what it's like against teams like Chelsea and Fulham, etc. So it's not like he's played, under 21s constantly. So I think he'll come into that and be like, if Klopp picks him, he'll be ready for it. And then in midfield, it's like we've got Endo coming back as well, and Szoboszlai is a big loss, but
push McAllister up one, doesn't it? And actually plays natural position.
Yeah, I agree with Paul. To me, it's probably 60-40. It's more to us than it is for Chelsea.
Now, Menti, I think, and this is just my opinion, I think if Robertson plays, then you've got no inversion because Robertson doesn't invert as a left back. Joe Gomez does invert as a right back, just as Trent inverts as a right back. So if you do go with a Bradley and Robbo fullbacks, are you in essence playing a brand new system? Because you don't have the rotational triangles that is the fundamental of our attack, because that inversion doesn't happen. Or do you think actually Bradley could probably do that role given the opportunity? It's been simplified, or Robbo could do it given the opportunity because it's been simplified. What do you think?
I think it might be similar to like what Robertson does on the left, where he just, got that freedom to just go. But I just think they're a little bit more defensively solid. I don't think it's a new system because I don't see Klopp trying either one of those two inverted. If he does start Joe Gomez, he's going to be inverted. But I for sure think Bradley has earned it. He's had a crazy 10 days, like King said. But yeah, I saw in the training photos, he's been smiling. So hopefully by then he's back to fitness, happy as well. But yeah, no, I think it's ours to lose. But Chelsea, I mean, they could be scary. They literally have nothing to win besides this. So it's in our hands. It might be time maybe for Elliott to step it up, because I know against Arsenal, I just felt like we set him up to fail when he was on that left side with Lucho playing right back. But nah, Elliott's been a baller. So yeah, I think that right side should be fine with Bradley.
Talking Mac Angado double pivot, we've got this predicted lineup, Paul, for the cup final, which is Kelleher, Bradley, Konate, Virgil Van Dijk, Robbo, Endo, McAllister, Curtis, Diaz, Darwin, Salah. And one of the things I think that puts probably in our favour when we start talking about that final is, as Jen put so eloquently, we've got Salah. Chelsea don't. And we've gone through this entire period, we've gone through 2024 so far, Salah free, he will be back. He's due back anytime. And we know Mo's not one of those players that needs months and months to get back into the swing of things. He just walks in and he's the finished article from day one, isn't he?
Yeah, of course. Salah's back is huge. As I've said many times, it's more than just the goals that Salah provides or scores, but it's the opportunities that he creates for the other players because of the attention he draws from the defenders. But going back slightly to the inverted fullback. Well, of course, Robbo is not that type of player, and I don't think Bradley is either. But there's pros and cons to it. First of all, the inverted player does not necessarily have to be a right back or a left back. We have seen Pep use a centre back, use John Stones in midfield. And secondly, when Trent is in midfield, it gives us an advantage in terms of when we have the ball, there's an extra man there. But on the flip side, we lose that width. And we don't have that player to overlap with Mo Salah when Trent is in midfield, which is what Bradley can give us. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if we have to change the way we play. And not many centre-backs in world football can pass like VVD, like Virgil. That diagonal cross pass that Virgil is known for. If you remember that goal that Szoboszlai scored against Chelsea, when Virgil picked out Conor Bradley on the right side, right? Bypass entire midfield, and then he just went to the byline and put it right in the box for a Szoboszlai. That's the kind of goal that we probably would not have had if we had Trent in midfield, because we would not have that width created by that fullback. So I just think we'll be fine. I think the game plan will be based on the players we have available. And so I am not too concerned. Yes, we would love to have Trent because he's a top player. But I think we have enough talent to beat anybody. It's just that we have to make our game plan based on the available players that we have right now. There's no point in telling Bradley to be a Trent and go and sit beside Endo, or to have Robertson come inside, because that's not his game. So I think we'll be fine.
So Kings, let's look at this. Let's progress this up one more step, I think, because I think what Paul's talking about, there's an element of it makes sense, is you want that overlap and stuff like that. But with the rotational triangles, you've got the right backs to go to right wing, go to right central midfield. So if you're playing that type of role, everyone's saying play McAllister right central midfield. Now, the only flaw Elliott's really got in his play at the moment is he's defensively not the strongest right central midfielder, which is fair enough. That's the area that he's developing. If you play Bradley there, not only can Elliott play right wing and right central midfield, he can rotate really helpfully and help Bradley get there. So with everyone saying play McAllister right central midfield, would it not be sensible if you went with the two fullbacks to go, actually, this might be where Harvey Elliott starts? And Harvey Elliott, Mo Salah and Bradley, who have a great connection between all three of them. You see it with them chatting all the time. This actually might be more suited for Elliott to play.
I think if you play Elliott with him and Conor Bradley, they've got so much energy. They're young. They kind of like, they've got no fear. You know, Elliott obviously loves the club. He's come in as a boyhood club, and he's trying so hard when he plays. You can see he puts a lot into it. And like I say, Bradley, very, very good, very confident, the pair of them. So I would imagine if them two were playing down the right, that there's going to be a lot of attack from that side, I think. Whether Klopp wants to start Elliott, he's been coming on a lot from the bench, you know, over the season. And it's like, well, will he start him in the cup final? I'm not sure. If he does, like I say, there's a lot of young energy there to push Liverpool forward on the right side. But I've got the feeling that Klopp won't start him. He'll put him on the bench, I think. Yeah, he probably will go with McAllister there. Is it the best decision? Well, we'll only find that out on the day, I suppose, won't we? And see how it works out. But that's what I think he's going to do.
It's funny, isn't it? You know, this time last year, everyone had been like, anyone but Jones. And now suddenly Jones has got the lockdown position, hasn't he, Menti? It's like, okay, well, who plays next to Jones? And Endo's got the other, you know, start of the season, Endo, Jones. People were saying we can get rid of Jones. No, we shouldn't have signed Endo. Now what we're talking about here, Menti, is the two lockdown positions are Endo starts at 6, Jones starts at left centre-back. Who is that right central midfielder? Now Szoboszlai is not available. Is it McAllister? Is it Gravenberch? Is it Elliott? And we're not, you know, I walked through Gravenberch into this conversation, and I don't think he'll probably start the final, if I'm honest. It's not that he's not good enough, but like Elliott and like Bradley, like Elliott, he's 21. He's still developing. It's a big game and stuff like that. So I think, what do you do? What do you do in this situation, Menti?
It's got to be Maka, just because the age. I mean, I think we know by now, like, players at Liverpool got to be able to play all over. So Maka being technically able, I think he'll be fine on the right side because, you know, Jones has been a beast. So I doubt him staying out. And then if we have Endo as like a destroyer type of DM he is, I think that would be that 3. Yeah, I don't think it's a hard choice for Klopp. And if he does make substitutes, it would be probably on the right-hand side in like the 80th or something when you know we win. But those 3 got to start, I'd say, in the midfield.
Yeah. And we'll put it out to chat. With Szoboszlai currently being injured, you've probably got 3 starting central midfielders. This doesn't have to be for the Carabao Cup final. This could be for Brentford at the weekend. Who are your 3 midfield first choices? You know, you've got obviously we're not going to include Thiago in this because he's made of straw. You've probably got 4 that are available. You've got Endo, McAllister, Jones, and Gravenberch. So who's your starting 4 in that midfield? And would you ask Endo to play central midfield, stuff like that? Put it in the chat. But Paul, we're gonna praise. We're gonna spend a little bit more time praising Conor Bradley, a Standard Chartered Player of the Month. Probably the most up and down month, of Conor Bradley's young life. He's gone from starting in the Premier League, scoring in the Premier League, getting assists in the Premier League, being more contributive than Bruno Fernandes in the Premier League, to unfortunately his father passing away. Now, there's part of you that goes, isn't it great that he got to, his father got to see him start a Premier League game, win a Premier League. There's all the positives in that, but also there's the crashing reality of, unfortunately, your father passing away. As much as you're prepared for it, you're never truly prepared for it when it happens. What a rate of growing up he's having to do at this moment in time, on what a month he had to win Player of the Month as well.
Absolutely. And I have to lift my cap to the academy, because a year ago when we were struggling with these old fellas in the midfield, and we were all saying, you know what, we need a full squad refresh. We were thinking about 5-6 players. Yes, we got a couple of good signings, but when you see guys like Conor Bradley coming through, Kwanzaa at centre back, and a couple of the other midfield, McConnell, it means that these guys are doing something right in the academy, because until these guys come through and play in the first team, we really don't know how good they are. And I can't believe that we are going to be without Trent for a couple of games, maybe a couple of months, and we're all relaxed because we have this academy graduate coming through. So he has been extremely impressive. I think he saved the club maybe, 40-50 million. So it's just exciting to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years with all of these young talent coming through. And again, I keep saying it, this is why I'm convinced that our next coach will be Xabi Alonso, because there's no way you can look at this team with these talents and turn on the opportunity. So exciting times are really ahead for this young squad that we have.
I completely agree, and it's another one, isn't it, Kings? It's another one off the line. How often do you get potentially 3 academy players starting in a top 6 team? We're talking Trent, we're talking Curtis, we're talking Conor Bradley. I know some people will think Elliott because he came young, but really he was a different academy. Some people think Joe Gomez, we got him from Charlton quite a way back. Those 3 have come right the way through. And how often does it happen? Kwanzaa, if he starts as well, it beggars belief that we've got this level of talent coming through, and obviously Klopp's tired. I fully buy into the whole tired thing. I've got tired at work. I needed a break. I get all that. I don't actually think it's anything other than that. But if you're a top manager in Europe being linked to this Liverpool job, and you're looking at that youth, the signings that have happened, and then the experience you've got, you're like, there is no way that I can not take this job, aren't you?
The academy that's now producing has taken its time again. Like over the years, we've had like Carragher, Gerrard, etc. come through, and there's 1 or 2 there, and then a few others here and there. It seems at the moment, the last 2, 3, 4 years of development is all coming in one big rush almost, because there's the 4 players we've already mentioned, including Kwanzaa. You've also got Clark coming through, Tyler Morton coming through. So there's 2 others that just off the top of my head that I can think of. Ben Doak has been injured, obviously, but it's, I just think there is so much potential until, as Paul said, until they play and they get into a routine in the Premier League. Because even Bradley, it's all right coming in for, say, 4 games, and everybody goes, oh, he's fantastic, he's a world beater, and he looks very comfortable. But until he's had like a full season and you get to really see how he gets into a groove, is it something he can do continuously? And that goes for all of them. But the promise is there. And any manager looking at that, whether it's Alonso, who I hope it is, or anybody else, to be honest, you've got to be looking at it positively, thinking that the talent you've got within the side anyway, and then these youngsters coming through, the future is completely different to what it was like when Klopp come in and had to make a lot of changes and then built his own side. Half of it, or 2/3 of it, I think, is already done for them when they're coming in, because it's there. It's set up, the training ground and everything. Now the facilities there, the stadium's been built up. Everything is pointing to the fact, if you get the right manager in, and he's very good with youngsters who can get them playing well, then you could be on a roll for a good few years, hopefully.
But Menti, I want to go back to Conor Bradley. I've been trying to think of a player that he reminds me of, and like who you can compare him to, and to me he reminds me a lot, probably more of Andy Robertson, just on the right hand side, because he gets forward, he tackles, he gets in your face, he's full energy, tackles at full pace. His final ball needs a bit of work, which has been Robbo's great delivery, but it's either great or it's needs a bit of work. Is there a player that he reminds you of, and how high do you think his ceiling could be? Player of the month. I get what Kings is saying, but you're allowed to dream a little bit, especially at the moment, aren't you?
Honestly, I've never thought of that, but Robertson would be a good one. But the only difference, even though the sample size is like very small, Robertson can't score for nothing. Like, great at everything else, but sometimes when Robertson sees an open net, it just goes over. But from that small Bradley sample size, it seems like he could somehow finish. So that's great for us. It just like, I'm just happy that Bradley came through the academy, just because Trent's been in Liverpool for how long, and he's like never had competition to push him to his best. Like, we're gonna see the better out of Trent. We don't know if he's gonna go to midfield, depending on who the manager is. So he might be in a new position, but I think Bradley's just gonna make everyone better. And the academy being this well, it's only good for the managers, because it's gonna finally be some competition, so people can't get complacent at their positions. So, but yeah, for Bradley, I'd say Robertson so far, just because the sample size is small, but better shooting.
One of the things I was reading this week, Paul, was people making the assumption Trent is doesn't want to be a right back anymore. He wants to progress into midfield. He doesn't want to play in that sort of inverted role, and he wants to progress into a different position and stuff like that. And then, obviously, most of you on this are not in our Twitter, in our WhatsApp group, sorry, and you will find that they're probably us as streamers, we're split down the middle between half going, actually he's good enough for midfield, and half going, he should never go anywhere near midfield in his life. Where are kind of you on this? Do you think he wants to stay at right back? Do you think he's happy with his new inversion role? Do you think he's good enough for midfield?
Well, Trent being with the team for all his life, basically, and being the vice captain, I think he will always say the right thing, and he will do whatever is asked by the manager. But deep down, I think Trent wants to be a midfielder. He seems to enjoy that role, even though limited, when he plays for his national team. And I think his idol is Steven Gerrard, so he wants to be in midfield. And then, not that he can't defend, but there are better defensive fullbacks available, right? So, but on the flip side, I am not sure Trent can play a 6 by himself. But I would try Trent a little bit further forward. As I've said already, I am surprised at the amount of goals that Bellingham is scoring at Madrid, because before he went there, in all his time at Dortmund, he was playing a little bit further back, and we all knew he was a super talent, but we never knew that he could score that many goals until Ancelotti decided to play him as more of a 10. There is no way that Gareth Southgate would have played Bellingham as a 10 if he didn't see his results in Dortmund. No, I am not for one saying that Trent is as talented as Bellingham, but who knows? Maybe Trent could score just as many goals if he had the opportunity, because he does have a shot on him, right? So I know we don't play with a 10, but if I'm going to put Trent in the midfield, I would try him more as an 8/10, rather than as a 6. Because as a 6, unless you're going to play a double pivot with somebody beside him, I am not comfortable with Trent as the sole 6. He's not a Fabinho, if that makes sense. But I think as he gets older, I would expect that he would transition more into midfield, but I want to see him just at the edge of the box more, instead of trying to be just sitting in front of the two centre backs. I think it will happen. Maybe not this year. Maybe Conor Bradley might just accelerate that change, and hopefully it will work out, because let's face it, we have to find a spot in the 11 for Trent. He's too good a player to be relegated to the bench. So
that
if
would never
Bradley,
happen, will it?
right. So if Bradley continue to demand his spot in the team by his performance, if Bradley continue to excel and say to Klopp or whoever the manager is by his performance that I need to be in this team, then you have to find a space for Trent. So unless we try Trent a little bit further forward at the 8, or maybe even at 10, who knows, maybe he can even play as a false 9. Unless we try something like that, you never know what you might stumble on. So I would like to see that experiment.
I think, Kings, one of the problems with it currently being Szoboszlai and Trent that are injured is where you would play Trent in the current club system is where Szoboszlai would play. And when Szoboszlai's back, you're in this dilemma of, do you drop Szoboszlai for Trent or do you drop Bradley for Trent? And you've got these players. And it's a problem that you want as a manager, isn't it? You want to be able to go, well, who do I drop here? Where do I do this? Do I drop Gomez? You know, we've all talked about dropping Gomez, and he hasn't put a foot wrong in two and a half months. Where Robbo's coming back in and Bradley. So it's really good problems to have. But are you, with Paul, not a 6, probably an 8, maybe a right wing? Maybe if Salah goes, we change our entire structure and we play crosses and we attack that way, and he plays as a right wing. Where would you see him wanting to go?
I agree mainly with what Paul said, actually. I can't see him as a defensive midfielder. If you look, and I'm not going to compare him to somebody like Thiago, and I know we said he's made of straw and he's always injured, etc. And obviously it looks like he's going to leave at the end of the season, going to disappear. So they need somebody who's got some passing ability in midfield. And I'm not having to go at any of our players. They're all good in their own different ways. But you can see Trent, he can hit a ball from right back, right towards the towards the goal line. You know, Salah's on it. It's a goal before you know it. He's good. Like he's got the vision. So if he moves to an advanced midfield role, he can spray that ball around quite easily, I believe. As you said, even on the right, he could play out on the right wing. Maybe the difficulty is Klopp's very good, or it seems he's very good at balancing who he picks and who's on the bench. You never hear any discontent, ever. So he's very good, obviously behind the scenes saying, listen, you're not playing this week but don't worry about it. In the next 2 weeks, you'll be in and they'll be out. Except he must do it like that. So even if Szoboszlai is on the bench and Trent's in, you think, well, probably after 60, 70 minutes, he's going to change it round and he might swap them two, etc. Like I said, he's so good at doing it. And the next manager's got to do that, really. He's got to keep the harmony and juggle. And that's what a top manager does, I suppose, is juggle enough that he keeps everybody happy somehow. And it's like, that's a hell of a job to have, because you've got all these so-called top players and they all want to be on the pitch for 90 plus minutes every single game, and they can't, because you physically can't do that. So I think he will end up in midfield and probably more advanced, spraying the ball around. It's just how you incorporate that into the new look team. And of course, whether it's Xabi Alonso or anybody else that we have or haven't mentioned comes in, they'll have their own style of play anyway. And they'll go, we're going to play, I don't know, a 4-4-3. 4-3-3, a 4-4-2. You know, anything. Yeah, I wish they could have played
No goalkeeper.
the extra one, and that'd be great. You know, but you know what I mean. They could come in with a complete different system, and you go, well, actually, now I can see Trent can fit into that. No problem if he does it this way or does it that way. So it all depends who's coming in and how the players maybe change in the summer. But Bradley is very, very good at right. So that does allow, I think, the confidence to move Trent more into midfield. But I wouldn't play him as a 6. I'd keep Endo or another there and let him have a bit more of a free role.
If I can just polish off this before James. Let me just polish off this before we move on to Menti. I think if we were playing, say, a 4-2-3-1 and Trent being one of the two, that would be perfect. Because one, he would have somebody beside him. So he would have the ability to go forward and the ability to have that long pass when it's there. But of course, 4-2-3-1 would, have its problems too, because we would give up one of our forwards. But or a 4-4-2, that Trent again would work in that system. So it's going to be interesting to see how it changes over time. But we have to find a space in the team for him when he's available.
I think what you're talking about there is like the old when we had the best midfield in the world type chant going on, where you had Mascherano, Alonso as your two defensive midfielders, and Gerrard just went hell for leather to score whatever he wanted. And that, yes, would work in theory, but I think what you've both posed, though, is a really interesting question, which is, could Trent become that Gerrard type player who's just free to do whatever he wants, pass the ball around and make things happen? And do we make that opportunity happen for him? Now we've got someone in Connor Bradley and Joe Gomez as potential right-back covers to do that. Now, Menti, Trent's got 18 months left on his deal, and from the reports that we're hearing, priority is going to getting Trent to sign a new deal over Salah and Virgil van Dijk at this moment in time. The big focus is getting Trent to sign a contract as soon as possible, probably bumping him up to near where Salah is in terms of salary. I think I was reading earlier this week. So if you were Liverpool, the business, not the manager, would you be focusing on, well, let's lock down the prized asset, the one that's going to be the face of the franchise, so to speak, get him all sorted and let whatever manager comes in know that that's the player you're building your team around? That is your Giannis, that is your sort of Luka Doncic type face of a franchise player that you've got to build everything that goes off around it.
Yeah. I think I'm not being delusional, but I think hopefully it's Alonso. I think the first thing the club is going to do is they're going to tie down Trent. I think if Alonso comes in, I think it's more beneficial for Trent just because he does play a 3-4-2-1. And how it works is he basically has 3 center backs that are able to move with the ball. Basically, Virgil and Konate fill that role. I think the left-hand side is questionable for Robertson. But the way he plays is he has 2 like left and right midfielders that are out wide, and then like Endo and McAllister will easily start. I think Trent's just going to be on the right side and play more like Grimaldo. I don't know if you guys saw the game against Bayern Munich. Yeah. Though the left and right midfielders that are out wide, they got the freedom to go up and down. It's just because that's how the system works. So I think what he's going to do is essentially try to turn Trent into like, his own Grimaldo. And just because of Alonso being a Liverpool player, he knows the connection that he already has with the fans, him being born there. There's no way. He's too talented for him to not start. But yeah, I already could kind of think of how Alonso is going to play. If he plays the same position, I think majority of the players stay, besides like the left-hand side. It's just questionable. We have the players to do it. It's just how long it takes for him to implement it, etc. But yeah, Trent's going to get in that team easily on the right-hand side as a midfielder.
I think you're right. Like, and this is what everyone does, and this isn't what Alonso does. This is just everyone taking Alonso's current structure based on the players that he had and gone, he's going to move that over to Liverpool. But
it could change.
The first time he ever played 3 at the back was when he went to Leverkusen, and he never played it before. So I think because the Leverkusen doesn't really appeal to wingers, you're going to get Mo Salah to play the Wirtz role potentially, but then Szoboszlai play there's elements of it that work and there's elements that don't work. Joe Gomez could play the Hincapié role relatively easily because he's got pace and he can play that and he can overlap Robertson and blah 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 blah. There are definitely parallels that you can take from it. And obviously, if you look at Twitter, put in the Leverkusen formation and they're picking 2 Leverkusen players in Hincapié and Wirtz, and they're going, they're going to appear in the Liverpool starting lineup because they think that Liverpool are just going to steal their manager and then Alonso's going to steal their players, because that's exactly what Klopp did, isn't it? He went straight to Dortmund and ripped out their talent. No, I think that people forget about mutual respect at times. So I think we're kind of in that weird position, Paul, where everyone's trying to think about what the future formation is going to be, just shoehorning in Alonso's current formation. But really what Alonso will do is he'll look at the talent that he's got and go, what is the best solution that I could make with this talent? Because what we're talking about is we've got 5 forwards, none of which are attacking midfielders. And is probably the most devastating attack in Europe when you put all 5 together. Why would you suddenly go, do you know what? I'm going to get rid of them all, start to pick some attacking midfielders instead.
Yeah, I agree. And as I said already, good coaches don't have a hard and fast style. Good coaches, their style is based on a number of factors. Most importantly, the talents of the players that they are coaching, the league in which they are playing, their opponents, etc. So I would be very surprised if Xabi come here and start with the 3 at the back, because that is not how our team is set up. We have 3 centre backs, yes, but we are not set up to play 3 at the back with 2 wing backs. So I'm not saying there is part of the game where you can make a change depending on situation. There's nothing wrong where if you're playing a top side and you're nursing a 1-goal advantage and it's 10 minutes to go, you take off a midfield and put on a centre back. But I don't see us playing that 3 at the back to start. I think he's a smart coach, and I don't see the way we play right now changes a lot unless we change the players that we currently have. So I expect the 4-3-3 or some version of the 4-3-3 to continue, because Xabi is a smart coach. He knows how to get the best of the players that is available. So I'm not too concerned about whether we're going to play 3 at the back or we're going to do a 4-2-3-1 or whatever. He has to find a way to make the players that we currently have work. And we have abundance of forwards, so our best 11 always would include 3 forwards. So that suggests to me that the 4-3-3 is still our best formation.
I think it's really interesting. David's put a question here. Do you think he's been watching our players perform? I think he watches pretty much most games. He's very sort of analytical manager generally. He implements gegenpress in terms of defensive, Xabi Alonso, but he plays more a tiki-taka formation type offense with Leverkusen than Liverpool's high-power counter-attack. I think they're the probable elements, Kings, that you can take from Alonso if he became Liverpool manager, that actually he would play gegenpress type style, because that's what you can get from Alonso. He would also probably play a possession-based thing, because that is also what fundamentally he has been taught as a footballer, which is high pressure from Germany and possession from Spain. But when I think about 3 at the back, and the reason I bring up 3 at the back is because that's what everyone thinks is going to happen. Currently in the Premier League, you've got 2 of the best one-on-one defenders. Easily 2 of the top 5 one-on-one defenders. You could probably say Man City, you've got the other 2, and maybe Saliba's the other top 5 one-on-one defenders. Why do you need a third to play as a defensive sort of support when you could throw them in attack? Or do you go do you know what? We're going to make Virgil Van Dijk, as Paul mentioned earlier, we're going to make him more a sweeper where he can step forward and just spray balls around and stuff like that. But then why would you have Trent doing it if you could get Virgil doing it? So there's a lot of variance to this, but I think we'll probably stick with a 4-3-3 or a version of a 2 at the back with wingers going forward because we've got that defensive stability, especially with Alisson behind. What do you think? And you don't have to agree. I'm more than happy to disagree.
To be fair, I do agree. It's served Jurgen very well, the system he's got at the back. So having the 2 centre backs, I suppose a 4-3-3, a 4-4-2 is standard over the years for a lot of teams, and then these new versions come in, like one up front and whatever at the back, and they try and tweak it in a diamond shape, etc. It doesn't always work, and I think Jurgen's got to the point where he's looked at it and gone, right, for me, 2 central defenders, 2 that can push forward if they need on either wing, going from defence, and now he's already started tweaking that by changing Trent, moving him in at points and things like that. But I think fundamentally he sticks with the 2 that he's got at the back. And I think adding in, let's just say he had Virgil van Dijk, Konate, and I don't know, Kwanzaa, or somebody else comes in. I just look at it and I think it would unbalance Virgil a little bit. He's comfortable in the 2 that he is in at the moment, and I don't think he's older now. So I don't know how much longer he's going to be at Liverpool anyway, but not that I want him to leave. He's a colossus, obviously, but I think he's comfortable with 2 centre-backs himself. And I don't think changing it to 3 would suit his game. So I would prefer somebody new to come in and just say, right, let's keep it as we have because it's worked. So stay like that.
I think just to counter myself, Menti, because obviously you brought up 3 at the back, and just to argue with myself, Kings makes a really good point. Virgil van Dijk's not getting any younger, but at the same time, I believe Virgil's got the football brain to play till he's 38. He's got the stature for it. He's got the aerial ability for it. The only thing that he might lose is pace.
Yeah.
Which obviously, therefore, then you need more pace around him to cover it, which is what I was going to say Chelsea do. Chelsea don't defend, but you get my point. They try to defend with pace either side, and Thiago Silva playing that centre-back role. So I could theoretically see a 3 at the back if, in 2 or 3 years' time, if Virgil continues to stay with us, signs a long-term contract and loses pace. He looks quick at the moment, though, doesn't he? He's looking on top form at the moment, and that's probably another tick we've got in our box when we start to think about this Carabao Cup final.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I really think he's going to play 3 in the back. I don't think it's just going to be something that's just going to be implemented right away. But Virgil's capable of doing it. He's just so good. He's proven it to us year in, year out.
I think he's done it at Holland. I think they've played 3 at the back. I don't know why, but I think they have.
Yep, they do.
Yeah, because if you put him in the middle, maybe you could Joe Gomez, Robertson. I think it's gonna work out just because Robertson can play that role where he could just flank out the back. But honestly, we won't know until the manager actually comes in. I do agree with Paul when he said he's capable of building a formation around the squad that he does have, and if he did need new players, he will go out and get them. We're seeing reports saying FSG will back the next manager, etc. But I think
we see reports FSG backers every summer.
It's the PR team, but no, I agree with Paul. I think he's a very smart coach. If we did get Alonso, he'll build everything around the current squad. And if he did need to say for instance bring in a player, I don't think we're gonna bring in Florian Wirtz. It'd likely be a center back. I think we have Szoboszlai that could play that role, so I don't see him coming in for how much he's going to be worth. FSG's not going to pay his clause.
No.
So.
Well, Antonio Conte said recently that he wanted at Chelsea Virgil van Dijk and Romelu Lukaku, and that his entire Chelsea career would have been different if he'd have pulled them in. Now, I don't think he'd have got Virgil van Dijk because soul club. That's what Virgil was looking for. If you think about where he's played for strong fan bases of people that love football. And I won't go into my opinion on some of the Chelsea fans at the moment and how they won the transfer window, and that's all that matters. But we're going to finish off, and this is one for the chat as well, which is it's Valentine's Day. You can send a Valentine's card to a player outside the top 6 to come and be part of the Liverpool family. What player are you sending your Valentine's Day card to ask them to come and play for Liverpool and join our family? And not top 6, so I know technically Chelsea are 10th, but they are, you know what I mean when I say top 6. Which player would you send your card to? And straight away we've got one, Elise. Did you see the interview he gave the other day, though, where he was like, yeah, and he passed me the ball, and I scored the goal, and yeah, that's what happened. It was like, wow, great commentary, Elise. Paul, who are you sending your card to?
There is 2 players that I would probably like. Bruno, not Fernandes. Bruno Guimaraes, that's his name. And Lucas Paqueta. I like those 2 Brazilian players a lot. I know Paqueta may have some stuff outside of football that may be an issue, but if we ignore that for a second, I think he would fit right in our side. We need a left-footed, creative midfielder. We know Harvey is left-footed, but he's a little bit too small and too slow for me. I like Paqueta a lot, and I think Bruno Guimaraes at the 6 for our team would be mental. So those are the 2 that comes to mind right away.
So we've got Elise, we've got Ivan Toney. For anyone in chat, it's like outside the top 6, you send a Valentine's Day card to join the Liverpool family. Who would you choose and why? Kings, who's your card going to?
Funny enough, I've said before, I don't watch a lot of other teams. So I can't really say, I'm just going to pick like that, but this is one for the Blue Noses probably. I'd take, is it Braithwaite? Is it?
Branthwaite. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
And it's not because it's from Everton, it's like he hasn't got far to travel. He doesn't have to move out or anything, does he?
He don't have to move.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I really like it.
He knows the area, so he's okay. But yeah, I think he's talented, or he's got the potential to be long term, with talent. And I think, yeah, I'd probably pick him, to be honest. But like I say, any Blue Nose watching won't be happy with that because they obviously don't want Liverpool to take their better players, do they?
No, I'm a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of Onana as well, which I think because he's like 6'3", he's a big, powerful defensive midfielder, and I kind of like. I kind of feel like we're missing that sort of destroyer. I'm a big so I like both of them. I think Braithwaite could be a good option.
I thought you meant Onana from Man United then. Oh no!
I'd send him a card to stay there just for my own amusement. So then we've got Ramsey. I'm assuming that's Jacob Ramsey. Villa. There is another Ramsey in the Premier League as well, isn't there, at the moment? So clarification, please. Douglas Luiz in our midfield, if we don't want to forward. Menti, who are you sending your card to and who are you going to try and ask to come and join the Liverpool family?
If I had to choose, since I already said some good names, I would say, what's his name? Sev Botman on Newcastle, the left-footed center back. He's a pretty good one. I feel like he'd be good on our team. He always plays good against us usually. So
is he Dutch as well?
He is Dutch, yeah. He's like 24, I think.
Get used to playing with Dutch on the international level. I think I'm trying to pick a random one that I really like. Douglas Luiz, I'm a big fan of. I think my preferred option would probably be Diaby from Villa. I think he's going to be absolutely unbelievable.
That's a good one.
I think he's going to be probably one of the top right wingers in the world. His pace is unreal, and as long as he don't get injured, and by injured I mean hamstrings, I think he's probably going to take over as probably the top right winger in the Premier League, because I don't see it as Saka, to be honest. And another player, I'm just going through defenders as if we wanted to get a defender in. I think Jared Braithwaite is probably the best one, isn't he?
Oh, I got one more. Anthony Robinson on Fulham, the left back. I like
Good left back. Palini is another good one as well if you wanted a defensive midfielder and you didn't care about age.
He's too old.
Son, that's top 6, isn't it?
Yeah, it's top 6. Yeah.
No one's mentioned Gary. And Eze. I'm a big fan of Eze. I think he could actually do good things in a Liverpool shirt. I think he just needs an opportunity to get away from Crystal Palace. But there you have it. I think, Paul, you went... It's completely gone out of my head. Bruno Guimaraes and...
Paqueta,
because
Lucas
you can't pick
Paqueta.
one. Kings went for Gareth Braithwaite. And Menti went for Sven Botman. I think Douglas Luiz is a popular one in chat, but I'm personally all on board with Braithwaite. I think Braithwaite and Conte and Canate could be and Gomez, who's only 26, could probably be a centre back group that you could have for a very long period of time and not have to worry about again. With Virgil Van Dijk playing till he's 40 and just mixing it around with all of them. So this has been LFC Transfer Room. This has been unfortunate bad news about Trent Alexander-Arnold, good news about Conor Bradley, and then we've just been sending some Valentine's cards out to players to try and get them to come and play for us. Thank you very much to Paul, Kings and Menti for joining us today. Make sure that you leave a like and a subscribe on the video, and we will catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody.